It is Wednesday, the 12th of February, 2025, and I have my alarm set for 12:30. I had so much to do this morning that I definitely wasn't able to come on earlier, even though I was up. Like, I don't know, like maybe like 5 or 6 a.m. So before I get into my videos with Whitney Webb and Bill Cooper calling out David Icke over reptilians and stuff like that, and about Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney and Canadian politics and how the Liberals and Conservatives are now allegedly equal in the polls, which again, I don't buy at all. Again, I've been saying this since the beginning. Mark Carney and the Liberal parties, they have so much money from these people that are pushing like the Davos, SDG, CBD, like all of that, all the woke DEI agenda. And including people again that are involved with Davos and Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove and all that stuff that have invested in people like Mark Carney to be the ones that are like the leaders of countries because they're manipulated, whether they know it or not. But before I get into that, there's a very interesting clip from a video that I wanted to share, and I have again, this is targeting a specific group, not targeting, but like explaining what a certain group has done throughout history. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that's being said, but there is a few interesting points in here that's said. And again, this is a movie.
From the sea, from the soil, you know, this is how they know themselves. Like Jews don't even have soil. Notice the Israelis. It's a fundamentally secular society. They no longer need Judaism because they have soil, because the real Jew is a wanderer. He's a nomad. He's got no roots and no attachments, so he universalizes everything. You can't hammer a nail or plow a field. All they can do is buy and sell and invest capital and manipulate markets, and, you know, it's like all mental. He takes a life of a people that's rooted in soil, and then he turns it into this cosmopolitan culture based on books and numbers and ideas. And, you know, this is his strength. You can take the greatest Jewish minds ever. Marx, Freud, Einstein. What have they given us? Communism, infantile sexuality, and the atom bomb. In the mere 3 centuries, it's taken these people to emerge from the ghettos of Europe. They've ripped us out of a world of order and reason. They've thrown us into a chaos of class warfare, irrational urges, relativity, into a world where now the very existence of matter and meaning is in question. Why? Because it's the deepest impulse of a Jewish soul to pull at the very fabric of life till there's nothing left but a thread. They want nothing but nothingness. Nothingness without end.
Wow. All right, so it's not that the Jew.
And I think that it's, I mean, he's right in the fact that like the people that own the mainstream media right now, the heads of the banking systems, the heads of the education systems, the people that are the heads of these friggin' bureaucratic groups and institutions and organizations, these foundations, there's so much money that's invested in things like even like large scale social deception. You heard that right. And so even with the military, U.S. military, and again, we have to do Canada next. We need a Doge in Canada. I've said this before, but $9.1 million of your American military funding was literally spent on COVID, on this, and this is just for COVID spending. So this is their COVID spending, 9.1 million on large scale social deception for the military. Unfudging believable. So while they were kicking people out and enforcing illegal and unlawful mandates and lockdowns and curfews and forcing people to either get jabbed or they lose their jobs, their livelihoods, couldn't see their grandparents, couldn't go to weddings, couldn't go to funerals, couldn't go to graduations, all of this stuff. And there was it was a multi-billion-dollar campaign that was thrown at us, including the psychological piece, like I'm saying, and the Canadian government as well. I know this for a fact. People within the government at all levels, they do have funds for psyops. Anyway, I want to get into some more of my stories before I kick off the videos. Oh, that's a shame. Of course, it's no longer. Actually, but I did save it. So I might have to go into a lot of different save stories. Bear with me.
Tom, where are these leaks coming from?
Well, look, we think it's coming from inside. And we know the first leak of Aurora is under current investigation. We think we identified that person under investigation right now. The California leak, Secretary Noem, she's correct. Some of the information we're receiving tends to lead toward the FBI. But I talked to the Deputy Attorney General all this weekend. They've opened up a criminal investigation, and they have promised that not only this person lose their job and lose their pension, they're going to go to jail. They're going to criminally prosecute. So
people within government, like especially like even people within the FBI, they are now finally getting investigated for targeting people from specific political leniencies, or whatever you want to call it, people that were like that they knew. Again, the January 6th protesters, for example, anyone that was considered to be or implied to be like a right-wing voter. Again, not criminal. Again, there's like left-wing parties and there's right-wing parties and stuff like that, and the large majority of people within these political parties are not extremists or radicals, right? And so it's the extremists that we have to look into. But people that were not extremists at all, innocent civilians and others within government were their lives were destroyed for the last several years now. And with people within government going against innocent civilians and going against their own. And again, it was pushing things that were unlawful, illegal, they should have not been doing to begin with. And this is happening in Canada as well. Like it's people that are obviously not liberal voters or Justin Trudeau supporters. Are the ones that have been subjected to the most lawfare and getting targeted, like way more than anyone that votes like more on the left side of the political spectrum. And it's so ridiculous that we are getting targeted because of our political preferences. And it's so this is what I mean. Like we're politicizing everything, and people that are pushing this, again, they are not even looking at the accurate data or information that's being pushed to them from like multiple different organizations, even in their intelligence communities, even CSIS. There's whistleblowers that have shared this, and I've shared that information. And so even now with the taxes and the tariffs and stuff like that, like the people that are getting penalized in Canada are people that, again, they're more of the working party types. They're more of the people that are from rural areas, or people that are like middle class, lower middle class, like within that spectrum. But again, more right wing political party voters. And so they're not going after the DEI programs and none of that. Like anyway, so they're just targeting specifically more right wing voters with people that are getting punished financially. And no one's even looking into yet again this carbon tax scam that is stealing from Canadians, and again, like impacting especially farmers. And again, look at the people that are impacting farmers or people from rural areas. It's people that, again, like Ryan Gosling or whatever his name is from that clip. It's people that they're not the working class. They're not the people that have planted seeds in the soil and been around for generations and care about the environment and care about like the communities and stuff like that. These are people that are exploiting us. And it's really nice that people from within government that have been committing crimes, like they are finally going to be arrested, investigated. I guess investigations comes before arrests, and see what it feels like. So this, I don't know if anyone has seen this, an attempted stabbing of a priest during mass in Winnipeg, Canada. It could have been real. It looks very staged to me. So I'm wondering if this is, again, like a staged and planned event, or if it's like some kind of training that's being conducted that was being recorded and somehow leaked. I don't know, but it to me just looks a little suspicious. So I want your opinion on this. So anyway, who knows? I'll look more into it. Another unhinged leftist medical doctor.
I am not saying that ridiculous at all if you want to be saying that.
Man, why this lady deny this dude health care because of the hat he was wearing. Check this out.
I don't care about her recording. I'm telling you. What they say is you come in my office, I have the right not to see you. The right? Yes. Read the laws that just passed, honey. Take the ridiculous hat off if you want me to see you. Okay, well, he can be sick.
Look how close she is in his face and the arms moving and stuff like that. Like she's so aggressive.
He can remain sick. You in that recording can get the hell out too. You do not talk to my wife like that. Who you think you is? You think you got that head on? You somebody? I'm somebody. You need me. I don't need you. You just put your hands on me. That's a lawsuit. No, that's a lawsuit. You gonna see me when I come in here. I got insurance. I'll pay for my insurance, and you go see me, or you go and get someone else and tell them to come and see me. Let's get this clear. You want me to touch on you when you want me to touch on you.
Oh my
God. You
God.
want me to see you, don't you?
Hooking someone like that in an aggressive way is a little bit different than seeing someone for medical treatment, lady. Doesn't matter about your race, your skin color, or anything.
I'm gonna have to touch you.
You seem to have a problem with that. And this stuff pisses me off too, because again, I was infantry officer for 15 years, and I've deployed to Afghanistan, and then people on multiple tours that I've talked to or been around, and the training that we've done, like we would never, like anyone, even if they're the enemy, and we just finished a fucking firefight with them. For example, I'm talking about the military here. Military doctors, it doesn't matter what side they're on, they will treat people. It depends on like the priority, right? And so for like some kind of like a mass casualty situation, they're always going to treat the people that need to be treated first. The priorities, again, I'll reiterate, regardless of if they killed our own or not, if they're from the other side, if they're terrorists or not, that is your fucking job. This unhinged leftist maniac getting this upset over a MAGA hat, when there are doctors and medics that have fucking treated the enemy overseas, because again, that's what you're supposed to fucking do, part of your job, Hippocratic oath and all that stuff. Again, I get so fired up, but like just the same shit is happening in Canada, and it's just, and they're just getting away with it.
You want me to see you? You want me to touch you? I'm not seeing you. I am not.
And that's a doctor. Oh, weather alert. We're getting anywhere between 30 to 40 centimeters of snow tonight. Woo!
If you get time, watch this.
Going to walk away and get on with my life. But then two things happened within the space of a month. And I said, I can't let this story go. I just have to know what is really going on with this disease. And one was I met a CIA black ops guy who said in 1962, the weirdest thing he'd ever done in his whole crazy apocalypse now career was dropping poison ticks on Cuban sugarcane workers. That was
poison ticks.
Operation Mongoose. So that was the first evidence that we had dropped ticks on a foreign country as a bioweapon. And then the other thing is one of my filmmaker friends went out to Willy Bergdorfer, and in a very long interview, at the very end, he said, yeah, when I investigated the Lyme disease sickness in the late 70s, early 80s, there was another organism there. It wasn't just Lyme that was making people sick. It was, and I was told to cover it up. It was probably a rickettsia. He didn't release all the information, but what he said was confirmed by copies of his lab books and subsequent interviews that I had with him.
Pardon my ignorance. What is the disease you described? The other one, rickettsia?
So it's a rickettsia. It is the same organism that causes Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and that's the most deadly tick-borne disease in the United States. It also was a germ that was being weaponized by the U.S. military at the time, and they tried to stuff it in ticks. I mean, so what is tick weaponization? So in the interviews with Willie, what he said was, I spent over a decade in the biological weapons program, a contractor to Fort Detrick, working on weaponizing fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes, trying to mass produce them.
Fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. And if you think that Bill Gates doesn't have his hand in mosquitoes and ticks and other airborne, whatever you want to call, well, not even airborne, because ticks, again, they're dropping these. And yeah, if you think he's not involved, you're wrong, because I've shared proof of that as well.
Stuffing fleas with the plague, stuffing mosquitoes with deadly Trinidad virus, and then stuffing ticks with either deadly or incapacitating diseases like relapsing fever, Venezuelan equine encephalitis, rabies, leptospirosis, which is another spirochete. So it's just like Dr. Strangelove trying to make new diseases, mixing bacteria and virus in ticks with the intent of this is the perfect stealth weapon. It's poor man's nuke. You
gain of function.
Drop these insects on an enemy. It weakens the population. It ties up the medical resources, but doesn't destroy infrastructure like a nuclear bomb would. And in one report from a bean counter in the military, they said tularemia, which is tick-borne tularemia, also rabbit fever, we can kill 10,000 people at $1.33 a life. So anyways, it was just, there was more to tick-borne diseases than we realized, and I began suspecting that Willie was right, given this context.
So yeah, this may seem like a conspiracy theory at this point, and like a tinfoil hat wearer and stuff like that. But again, there's so much proof that these have been dropped on populations for decades now. And I've said this before as well. Interview with an Afghanistan farmer was saying that there were ticks that were dropped on his crops, and he said it was likely a Dutch connection there, and then his crops were impacted. These bugs destroyed his crops and stuff like that. And I'll say that, like, I've been outside a large percentage of my life since I was a little fucking kid. I don't know, I swear with that. And then being in the infantry, and then afterwards, all the work that I've done, like with not just with Discovery Channel, but with the work I've done outside, like firearms training, driving training, all of that stuff. And I have never seen the amount of ticks that I have seen in the last like 4 years. I started noticing, like, wow, there's way more ticks, and it's gotten worse. And so not just Cuba, not just Afghanistan, like this is happening literally in North America. And unfortunately, there's people like Bill Gates that have their hands in this shit, right? And so it's alarming, and it's gonna come out. I was talking a lot in videos, and I hope this doesn't make me sound like I'm a racist or that I'm like anti-immigrant. I am absolutely not, but come here again for the right reasons and the right way. I will reiterate that. And don't bring things from your country that you fled. Okay, the culture and the morals and stuff like that, and what you think is socially accepted or what was socially acceptable in your country, like even with female genital mutilation, and with like child brides, and with not having access to education or work, or being able to drive a vehicle, or having to completely cover up the bodies with none of that. Anyway. Just see the post.
I had no idea we were allowing this in Canada, let alone in Burlington. Watch this.
We would say that, well, if you were to be intimate with a 14-year-old or 13-year-old who's got huge hips and huge breasts and huge body, I mean, quite frankly, we would say in these countries where we live in now, one is legal and one is illegal. So, in other words, you can't marry a 100-year-old woman, but you can marry that girl that's you can't be. So you're a pedophile if you go for the girl that's got the hips.
Yes,
and once again, pedophilia is relative.
It's relative. It's relative. Anyways, this is the person who's been invited to speak at this conference in Burlington on February 24th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Burlington Convention Center. In this country,
Burlington, Ontario. Again, this fucking province that I'm in right now, we have lost the plot. There's so many more organized crime rings and B&Es in certain areas. And again, it's like specific people that are not the firefighter types. They're not the first responder types. They're not, like cashiers or like waiters at your, like people that are needed and have hard ass fucking jobs inside. There are people, again, it's organized crime. And look at the areas where it's most impacted.
Mohammed, it's not relative. Adults with 13 and 14-year-olds, that lands you in prison. We don't need your values. We don't need your laws. We don't need your insights. And we don't care to have you in this country.
Yeah.
What you preach is disgusting.
Yep.
I had no idea we were allowing.
Yep. So he will be speaking at his fucking speaking convention. Again, trying to push this bullshit about, if a 13 or 14-year-old has hips and breasts, makes her legal in your country. Your old country. And again, if you want that, then go back. We don't want that here in Canada. I get so fired up. Because it's disgusting to me. This is rape. Oh my God.
What's happening if you're retarded and you can't see it? A little over a week ago, Donald Trump passes the anti-Semitism bill, which literally overrides the First Amendment. Then his old friend Kanye West goes on a Jewish tirade on Twitter, has a Super Bowl ad to direct people to his website to buy his shit, and then literally just sells a swastika. If you can't see that they're using Kanye West to take away the First Amendment, I think you're a fucking retard. A plant trying to make the First Amendment illegal. And I'm the one with the copper crown on my head. All of the alt-right that is now starting to notice Israel's crimes against humanity is also help furthering the agenda. Because the more they notice, the more they reinforce the inevitable censorship that is now happening. Everybody's talking about U.S. aid going towards censoring Americans.
USspending.gov, you can go check this out yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But the Department of Defense actually gave Thomson Reuters, which of course many of you know is news. They're also
mainstream media, motherfucking news. Sorry, I just can't even believe it.
Involved in a lot of mainstream media. They have a COVID-19 spending contract that was awarded to them. So they were awarded about $9.1 million. And I'm not making this up. It's right here. Large-scale social deception.
All while Americans don't realize they're already being censored, even though some of you believe you're noticing, all while celebrating someone like Kanye West, who is actually being used to speed up the process of taking away freedom of speech. But here's what the actual fucking problem is. If you still believe in left-right paradigms, conservative liberal, I think you're fucking retarded. If you want to talk about genocides, but won't acknowledge the one happening on your own soil, abortion, I think you're fucking retarded. If you can't see that all politics is playing into the same hand, which is total enslavement of humanity for those in control, I think you're fucking retarded. The real fucking problem is tribalism, whether you listen to country or hip hop and identify with either or. The problem is the tribalism that comes with it. Tribalism stems from the base level motion of survival. And the reason why humans get worked up over shit that seemingly doesn't matter is because majority of the world is literally living in survival mode. Most of you have never fucking meditated one day in your life and have no idea how to control your stress if something bad happens to you throughout the day, which then carries over into you becoming reactive over everything that happens outside of your control. Gas prices and food going up, rent going up, mortgages, which is all manufactured stress from the people in control. So when they give you more stimuli to react to, you fall for the fucking bait every time. And the reason why tribalism is especially retarded in 2025 is because they're literally disclosing aliens. So every time you react about what a white person, black person, liberal, Republican, Hispanic, illegal, Jewish, or any other person does outside of you, you forward the agenda that they are literally socially programming you into. And your reactions continue to feed the cycle. So what's the solution? Realize that there's good and evil, and that humans are just humans, and that there's good humans and evil humans in every race. Learn how to control your emotions and stop giving into things and agendas that are literally there to make you reactive. And stop worshiping celebrities or people you feel are above you, who are literally where they are because they've been planted to be there. And maybe, just maybe, we'll actually be able to take our world back before we get dog walked in AI communist dick. Here's what's happening if you're retarded and you can't see it. A little over a week ago, Donald Trump passes the anti-Semitism bill, which literally overrides the
So this is when he comes to Ottawa again, I think it's going to be soon, but he's like he and I are going to link up and do a podcast.
Well, fart in my face and call me Shirley.
Nope.
Did you hear the news or what? What? How Google Maps changed it to Gulf of America now? Or how Zelensky says that Ukrainians don't like elections and they'd rather just keep him president forever? Nah, fuck all that. I want to talk about the farmers in London, United Kingdom, protesting an absolute egregious, atrocious tax by their government. This is them clogging up Downing Street in a beautiful, non-violent protest. Of course, you won't see this on mainstream media. I had to find it on Reddit. Thousands of tractors right now are doing this. Basically, the government is raising taxes 20%, and farmers will never be able to pay that without selling their farms. It's a land grab. Meanwhile, here's Kane's sausage fingers. Is that what you're talking about? Nah, bro.
The attack on farmers with this lawfare and with this economic warfare and PSYOP stuff is like it's hurting you too. I'm talking about just people don't understand this, like people within government, by what you are doing with the carbon taxes and with the climate scams bullshit and the woke DEI, all the money that's gone towards that stuff instead of going to where it actually is needed, it's going to absolutely harm us. Throughout history, this has happened. I've even given the example of Holodomor, and people just don't seem to be able to wrap their heads around it. There's a certain percentage of every society that needs to have the capacity to provide supplies and resources to people within the community, within relatively short distances away from things like the suburbs and the major city centers. And this overdevelopment stuff that we're doing, it's not helping at all. And it's making a larger imbalance. And then you add in all the taxes, including property taxes that have gone way up, targeting farmers significantly, the carbon tax, again, all this other stuff as well. So many places are shutting down. I guess soil also getting poisoned, and then let's also talk about Indigenous people who are getting kicked off their land and getting trespass notices and things like that on lands that they've been on for literally generations, and keeping it just fine.
Wu-Tang Clan's coming out with a new album. Let's go.
This was really interesting.
Americans are not Indians. The grand finale. You ready? Let's go. This is one of the early flags of the Iroquois Confederation. Hold up. Run that back. This is one of the early flags of the Iroquois Confederation. Before it was converted into a symbol of hate and slavery. Did you hear that? Before it was converted into a symbol of hate and slavery. Meaning it didn't originate with Europeans. Yeah, I'm taking it down. The modern day Confederate flag was copied from the original Confederate flag because all they did was remove the battle cannon that was in the center of the flag. They removed the names of the so-called Indian tribes that was associated with the Southern flag or Confederate flag. Now somebody might ask, why they do that? This was all done so that Europeans could steal this symbol away from the Moors and convert it into a symbol of hate and slavery so that Moors cannot associate themselves with it and their Southern heritage to the South. Yes, Moors owned the South because only so-called Indians had confederacies. Therefore, this flag could never possibly belong to Europeans from the South because Europeans did not have confederacies because only so-called Indians did. Wow. Time out. Let's jump in the time machine. This is an ancient sculpture in Mexico called Nayarit. Now look at this symbol on the chest. The top right is the original Confederate flag. Can you see that? And this is the modern Confederate flag. It's nothing new under the sun. Now brace yourself. The Civil War was between the Iroquois Confederation South versus the Powhatan Confederation of the North. Pause. So the Moors from Iroquois Confederation South was fighting against the Moors from the Powhatan Confederation of the North. The real Civil War was for land rights for mostly European slaves. You had more Europeans in slavery than so-called blacks in the South because Moors owned the South. The real Cherokee Nation was infiltrated by Europeans and Mongols. The dark copper-colored indigenous people of the tribe were reclassified as freemen and were discriminated against. Most were kicked off the land. So keep in mind, Moors from the north was fighting against Moors from the south. Meanwhile, being infiltrated by Europeans and Mongols. This is where the $5 Indians came from. The European $5 quote-unquote Indians owned prisoners of war, aka slaves, under the Cherokee Nation after it was overthrown. But the actual indigenous Cherokee did not. Cherokee owned European slaves that were shipped from Europe to the Americas to work on southern plantations owned by Berbers that were also called Moors. Now check this out. Book reference. Title 29. Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware. The tribe was formerly known as the Moors. What? Run that back. The tribe was formerly known as the Moors. What was you saying again? The Delaware School Code of 1921 established a school for children of people called Moors. Receipts. The Smithsonian Institute issued an annual report in 1948 in which the tribe was referred to as the Moors of Kent County, Delaware. Receipts. The word Lenape means we the people. Americans are not Indians. The grand finale. You ready? Let's go. This is one of the early flags of the Iroquois Confederation. Hold up. Run that back. This is one of the early flags of the Iroquois Confederation. Before it was converted into a symbol of hate and slavery. Did you hear that? Before it was converted into a symbol of hate and slavery. Meaning it didn't originate with Europeans. Yeah, I'm taking it down. The modern day Confederate flag was copied from the original Confederate flag because all they did was remove the battle cannon that was in the center of the flag. They removed the names of the so-called Indian tribes that was associated with the Southern flag or Confederate flag. Now somebody might ask, why they do that? This was all done so that Europeans could steal this symbol away from the Moors and convert it into a symbol of hate and slavery so that Moors cannot associate themselves with it and their southern heritage to the south. Yes, Moors owned the south because only so-called Indians had confederacies. Therefore, this flag could never possibly belong to Europeans from the south because Europeans did not have confederacies because only so-called Indians did. Wow. Time out. Let's jump in the time machine. This is an ancient sculpture in Mexico called Nayarit. Now look at this symbol on the chest. The top right is the original Confederate flag. Can you see that? And this is the modern Confederate flag. It's nothing new under the sun. Now brace yourself. The Civil War was...
That was very interesting. Oh, there's so much more I could share, but I need to get into the videos. So maybe I'll get into X2 again, because friggin' Chrystia Freeland, she is, oh my God. And I was listening to this video, and this guy was saying that she's like the smartest person in Canada, and I just couldn't even finish. But anyways, from the Vigilante Fox, new Chrystia Freeland threatens Trump with the biggest trade blow that the United States has ever endured. This includes 100% tariffs on all Teslas, a direct attack on Elon Musk, and a full ban on Wisconsin dairy products to stick it to Trump. I am calling on all countries that are affected by this tariff to join us, and our retaliation will target specific Trump constituencies. Again, she's like even admitting that like they target the people that are on the opposite side of the political spectrum, and it's so fucking childish and criminal and appalling. And I was saying this even last summer when Trump was talking about tariffs, like when he was talking about China. He didn't mention Canada at that point, but I was having arguments with people because I'm saying, and I even said it on videos, it's going to impact Canada too, because like we're not American, right? And we do imports and exports with them, and they're going to be looking at us and they're going to be imposing tariffs too. I literally fucking said that. And I'm like, so like, just understand what you're bringing in. And I'm saying it's still better. It was still better than Kamala and what she would have brought, and what the Democratic Party would have brought, and especially because of like who their donators are, and anyways, but the right as well. And so this shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone. And the fact that they're retaliating in such a way is just fucking mind blowing. And government is still prorogued. Yeah, and this is the same woman who called people that were a part of the the peaceful Freedom Convoy protest, calling us terrorists.
If you force our hand, we will inflict the biggest trade blow that the United States has ever endured.
And, like, hilarious to even say that.
What does that trade blow look like if you're the next prime minister?
Dollar for dollar retaliation. Any tariff imposed on Canada, Canada will respond to. And our response is going to be smart and targeted. The tariffs the U.S. is threatening Canada with are across the board, and they're going to hurt you. Take aluminum. Aluminum is basically electricity in solid form. And in imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian aluminum, you're hurting yourselves. You're putting a 25% tax on electricity, and you actually need more electricity today in this AI race with China.
Yep.
Our retaliation is going to be a lot more surgical than that. We are going to go after American stakeholders who matter to the White House. I have proposed a 100% tariff on all Teslas. I am calling on all the countries that are affected by this tariff to join us. And our retaliation will target specific Trump constituencies. Another group that we're going to go after is Wisconsin dairy farmers. We know how important they are for.
Because she does that to Canadians too. The same thing she's doing to the U.S. and being willing to do to the U.S. She's been doing to Canadians as a deputy prime minister and as the shadow finance minister, the shittiest of both jobs ever in the history of Canada. Oh my God.
And we're not going to let them sell their products in Canada anymore.
Yeah, she is so deplorable. And I know that sounds hateful and stuff like that, but again, she's like destroyed lives. Yeah, so this is from Elon Musk. And again, a lot of sketchy stuff as well there. So at this point, I'm 100% certain that the magnitude of the fraud in federal entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, disability, etc., exceeds the combined sum of every private scam you've ever heard of by far. It's not even close. And so Elon, now also look into NASA and their financials, and look into General Dynamics and Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, et cetera, et cetera. Updating Universal Ostrich Farms. This is from Viva Frey. The Canadian government is appealing the injunction that stayed the execution of the now healthy 400 plus ostriches on the ostrich farm in British Columbia. The CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, is arguing that the judge exceeded his jurisdiction. Basically that the administrative body is in itself judge, jury, and executioner. Literally, this is an outrage. And so this such overreach, and the people that are targeting and impacting, it's just not surprising, but just so disheartening. Okay, so I'll get into William Bill Cooper exposes David Icke's reptilian grift. So he's a secret society researcher. He heavily promotes the 2012 Doomsday, and he also promotes the New Age propaganda, the awakening of consciousness. Okay. He claims that the global elite are human reptiles shifters with no evidence to prove it. He poisons the truth with a lot of fear-mongering.
David Icke is one of the biggest liars, disinformation, bullshit artists that ever lived. Stay away from that guy. Stay away from his book. Stay away from his lectures. Stay away from him, period.
Is he the guy that's from England? He was a sports broadcaster or something?
I don't know what he was. He's a liar. That's what he is. And I'm saying it on the air, and I'm saying it to his face, and if he don't like it, he can sue me. Lying scum.
Okay. I've heard of him, but I've not really heard much what he has to say. But
Oh, according to him, Queen Elizabeth goes down in the dungeon in Windsor Castle and changes into a giant lizard.
that does sound pretty far out.
And it's the lizard people who disguise themselves as humans who are really running the world.
Actually, I think it was when I was on, maybe on Globebusters, but with Jaron. This was a few months ago, and like an open corner or whatever it's called, and Dave Weiss came on. But I was asked during that podcast what my favorite conspiracy theory was, and it didn't land with people. Like, but I don't know why. But like my favorite conspiracy theory that I don't think is true is about the friggin' reptilian race stuff, like that the global elites are reptilians, and yeah, and so
Can't believe it. I mean, millions of people are falling for this bullshit.
I need more proof. I need some proof.
And believe it. I mean, it's disgusting. Makes me just want to go out and strangle somebody.
Well, what did P.T. Barnum say?
Don't do that.
Oh, God. Yeah, but I always thought he was talking about entertainment. I didn't know that this was going on in the real world.
I don't think a lot of people know the difference, Bill, between entertainment and the real world.
I have discovered that was the greatest letdown that I've ever had in my life, is to discover that the American people are exactly what the Illuminati think they are.
Exactly right.
Stupid animals.
I think you're right.
Sheep.
Thanks, Bill. Good night.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling. If that hurts your feelings, then that means you know that I'm talking to you. If it doesn't hurt your feelings, then it certainly doesn't apply to you. See, if what I say on this broadcast makes you mad, it's because I hit you right in the solar plexus and you know it's true. Otherwise, you wouldn't get mad about it.
Let me get the story right. The press claim that you claim to be the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yes, you see, the thing is that it's quite funny, really. You know, 2,000 years ago, had a guy called Jesus sat here and said these same things, you would still be laughing. It's really, really funny that we've not really moved on that much. The negativity, the thoughts that I'm talking about that are very destructive, are pouring out of this planet
Well, let me
every
interrupt
day.
you. Was it a great shock for you to discover this at 38?
Well, I think the word is gobsmacked. But again, you know, the best way of removing negativity is to laugh and be joyous. So I'm delighted that there's so much laughter in the audience tonight.
But no,
but just let me say this.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you.
Yeah, so it goes on from there, but just like a lot of bogus claims, and it doesn't help the truther community. I'm gonna have to leave in the next 10 minutes, and so I'm gonna share. I'm just gonna talk briefly about liberals being tied in a new poll.
America's
I think a lot of this again is rigged polling, and just like they did with Kamala, they want to make it look like she's more popular. That they want to make it look like the Liberal Party is more popular than what they are, because again, it's a psyops, right? Then more people are going to be like, oh, like okay, so like they're getting traction, and then they're going to want to be part of the gang or part of the group, the winning team, whatever you want to call it. And
power. That's right. The electricity to millions of Americans. We got Chrystia Freeland coming out with a new tax plan, which is basically just ripping off Pierre Poilievre's tax plan. New polling data, a whole bunch of other stories. Let's jump into it. First off, we got polling data coming from Shreya Teest here. This one's going to sting a bit. I should note before we look at the data, someone asked him how credible is Ledger. As he said, one of the most credible pollsters in Canada. So what we're looking at here is 37% for the Conservatives, 37% for the Liberals. Yeah, that's okay, so Mark Carney's getting his big bump here. Now, while this doesn't look great, let's take a look back at memory lane. This is the Conservatives' numbers back in 1992, the red here being the Liberals. So this is Jean Chrétien's polling numbers. We got Brian Mulroney down here. Kim Campbell takes over right here. Her numbers surge. People figured out who she was. They didn't like the things she was saying. She said some stupid things, and off the cliff it went. So the same thing we saw, as I've shown a couple times with Kamala Harris. She got that initial spike, and as you can see here, it's 1 or 2 months after joining a race, being involved in politics in any serious manner, dives off a cliff. So the new shiny syndrome here, we're seeing this back in 1992. We see it with Kamala Harris. I thought this one was interesting, posted by a contrarian here. He's basically asking, why is it flipped, the boomers in Canada versus the boomers in America? And as you see here, this is for America. Keep in mind the colors are flipped in America, so the red are the Republicans or the Conservative Party, and the blue are the Democrats. There are more right-leaning, right-wing people in America that are older, but in Canada, it's the other way. Now, we have the corrupt media like CBC who pushes propaganda, so I think that is probably the majority of the reason, I would suspect. Got this one from Danielle Smith. So she's coming out. She urges the federal government to repeal Bill C-5 and reintroduce mandatory minimums for street candy offenses. Recently, we've got Pierre Poilievre coming out with his Canada First message, and the Liberals right away attacking it with this. This is so sad. One Proud Boys chapter based in Hamilton is now using the name Canada First and shares blatant pro-Yahtzee type of words, material on Telegram, according to Peter Smith, a reporter and researcher with the Canadian Anti-H-Word Network. So because one person or one group did one thing somewhere, you can't make this stuff up. So Canada First is now a bad thing.
Like linking Pierre Poilievre to the Proud Boys. And even that, there's a lot of people within the Proud Boys that they're not terrorists or anything like that. There are extremists and radicals within so many different organizations. And these are plants. Like these are organizations that have been embedded by government. And oftentimes people within it's them like initiating these groups and or exploiting them and further radicalizing them from within.
Say in Canada.
I do have to leave soon because my friend just messaged me and she's going to be a lot earlier than expected. But I still want to talk about Whitney Webb on what BlackRock has in store for us by 2020.
Have essentially said that this will be the only way to prove you have legal identity. And so if you don't participate in that system, as far as the state or the private sector is concerned, you don't exist. So by not participating in that system, you're inherently excluded from the economic system and really essentially everything. It's going to be a problem, reaction, solution type of situation where they've already made the solution. They've already developed what they want to be the new financial governance system after this new Bretton Woods moment. They just need some sort of big event on the scale of World War II or some large event that's equally disruptive in order to be like, all right, now it's time for a new financial governance system after this big event like they did after World War II.
Mm-hmm. Today, we have investigative journalist Whitney Webb warning us that we are witnessing the birth of a new international monetary system, the consequences of which will be disastrous. Whitney warns us this new financial system will replace the current Bretton Woods system and will be built solely on the blockchain. The purpose of the new financial system is total surveillance and censorship over every aspect of our lives. Whitney's warnings are based on the plans of several global elites, such as French President Emmanuel Macron and World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab. Schwab has warned the world that every industry from oil...
And his husband, who is not a woman, Brigitte Macron, who is 33 years older than Emmanuel Macron. Why is that's important? Is because he was 47 when Emmanuel was 14 when they first met each other.
And gas
or when Brigitte alleged that she like in that concert that Emmanuel was at, like that's when she started noticing him as a man.
Tech
Oh my
must
God,
be
14
transformed,
years old,
stating that we need a
Gross.
great reset of capitalism. In her most
and 47.
recent interview with Mark Goodwin, Whitney warns us that all world governments are pushing us towards this new world order. It is being ushered in by elites such as BlackRock's Larry Fink, who wants to tokenize all existing assets and commodities in the natural world. Whitney warns that everything will be tokenized, from forests to rivers, mountains, and lakes. Everything commoditized to be owned and traded by the super rich and powerful, all with one singular goal in mind: complete control and domination over the rest of us. Within the conversation, Whitney breaks down two important factors of the New World Order plan: digital IDs and natural world tokenization. Whitney warns that Schwab and his fellow elites are on the verge of achieving their grand plans and will use a catastrophic level event on the scale of World War II to usher in the new financial system.
People that are involved in Oracle, that are involved in Palantir, they're like these are all billionaire types that again are also like very much like they're invested in this.
As we bring you clips from the video, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance and invest
transactional media of the internet. With the new AI era, right, they can fuse all the data, analyze it, and depending on how they develop that AI algorithm, use it to control people in unprecedented ways. I think the digital ID and the CBDC and its private sector equivalence project is something that we're always sort of intended to be the same system. So there's documents from the UN, from the BIS, and in related groups that are sort of that have been working on this for years. That essentially frame one as essential to the other, using words about, this is inclusionary, the whole, marketing behind digital ID is that everyone needs a legal ID because otherwise they're unable to access essential services, right? And so the idea is we all have to be included in the system, and they directly link that to the concept of financial inclusion and banking the unbanked, which you brought up earlier. But to
mitigate election fraud, they're going to usher this in because of things like that, right?
Apparently, these systems actually function in an exclusionary way, based on how they've been set up. They have essentially said that this will be the only way to prove you have legal identity, and so if you don't participate in that system, as far as the state or the private sector is exist. So by not participating in that system, you're inherently excluded from the economic system and really essentially everything. So you have to onboard to the surveillance state or be excluded from everything. So it's, being marketed as inclusion, but it's really inherently exclusionary.
Totally. So how does this system get triggered? How do we move into the Mark Carney-ism?
Well, I think they sort of give it away when they say that this is the new Bretton Woods movement that needs to be seized. So Bretton Woods was what came out of World War II essentially, and was the creation of a new financial governance system after World War II. And this is essentially an effort to create a new financial governance system that was announced well before any sort of crisis like that, but it's probably going to need a crisis of that level to be implemented and convince people to onboard at scale. And if you subscribe to the theory that all wars are bankers' wars, which there is plenty of evidence to support that, I would say, that seems to suggest that perhaps, this is the it's going to be a problem reaction solution type of situation where they've already made the solution. They've already developed what they want to be the new financial governance system after this new Bretton Woods moment. They just need some sort of big event on the scale of World War II or some large event that's, equally disruptive in order to be like, all right, now it's time for a new financial governance system after this big event like they did after World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the thing that's so interesting about this debt bubble exploding is that when you know that the debt bubble is going to explode and you want to explode it into the new system, the way that you sort of trigger that into the system that you want to get the masses to go with you is you actually want to have the most debt obligations on the record, like on the board, so that when the system pops, they'll all pop. When the debt bubble pops, every debt bubble will pop. It will be everything all at once. It won't just be like, oh, Japan's fine, the US is like, it won't work like that. Everything will pop at once. So in this weird way, you actually want to create as much debt as possible right before the pin bursts the bubble. And then you can offer this, hey, we'll service your debt 1-to-1 if you come join this new universal tokenized ledger. Just sign up here, do a selfie of your face, and give us your biometrics, and then here you are.
Well, it seems like in Larry Fink's case in particular, there's a goal, a big ambition there to develop new asset classes that can be used to basically fuel their existing business model and perpetuate it for millennia forward. So
okay, this is very interesting, but I'm going to have to stop it there. So on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the algorithms.